I'm Peter, and this is the RoguePlanetoid Podcast, where you'll find insights about Microsoft or related platforms and technology, along with so much more. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced professional or just interested in technology, keep current, keep coding. Welcome to episode 24 of the RoguePlanetoid Podcast, with an overview of 2024. 2024 was a year filled with more and different events than ever before, including my own, and the highlight was becoming a Microsoft MVP. It is good to look back at last year, although a bit later than expected, with this episode delayed due to illness in the last few weeks of 2024, and the first few of this year, which was then followed by some unexpected issues. So I am now pleased to be able to finally do this overview of 2024, as I look forward to a brighter and better 2025. January started 2024 on the RoguePlanetoid Podcast with an overview of 2023, covering all the things that I'd done in 2023. January also saw Tutorial Tuesdays, with more Windows App SDK tutorials for tutorialer.com, and the first event of the year was Silicon Mingle, which is a great meetup event here in the northeast of England. It also saw me work on a new presentation, taken out of XAML with .NET 8, which would make a couple of appearances during 2024. February covered C# on the RoguePlanetoid Podcast with an overview of all the versions up to that point, along with more Windows App SDK tutorials for tutorialer.com. February also saw me attend Unlocking the Value of AI, which was a one-off event which covered perspectives and realizing the value of generative AI, and with an Ask the Experts panel, along with other useful sessions that would help anyone make the most of AI or get to know it better. February saw me deliver my new talk, taken out of XAML with .NET 8 for Dev Community Northeast, and it was also accepted as a talk for DDD North the following month. March covered XAML on the RoguePlanetoid Podcast, including for Windows Presentation Foundation, Silverlight, Windows Phone, Universal Windows Platform, and Windows App SDK. March also saw the last few Windows App SDK tutorials for the year, until some of the functionality is supported, which should hopefully be sometime in 2025. So I'll be resuming the Windows App SDK tutorials on tutorialer.com then. March was a great month of events, with DDD North, where I delivered a longer version of Taken Out of XAML with .NET 8, with some amazing questions that really pushed my knowledge of the subject. There were also events that I attended, including Tech on the Tyne about emotional intelligence, and the .NET Meetup Newcastle covering AI in the modern enterprise and Azure AOT with .NET Nano. There was also Platform, which was an event I'd wanted to attend for some time, organised by Paul Lancaster, who really helped showcase local startups, and it was amazing to be able to go along. March also saw a fun post I put together after seeing a post about the cover for Halo 3. I had one for the original Halo Combat Evolved, and got over 27,000 views, and my most popular social media post I'll probably ever have. April covered .NET MAUI on the RoguePlanetoid Podcast and saw the release of a talk, Reels Engine with .NET on tutorialer.com, as a talk Thursday for the very first time, as well as a companion article on RoguePlanetoid.com. April was also a chance to return to CrimeCon in Glasgow to help promote Scottish murders, which was great to be able to do and prepare for the following month. May started with the RoguePlanetoid Podcast covering Uno platform, along with my first ever hybrid event, doing my Taken Out of XAML with .NET 8 talk in Nottingham, organised by Pete Gallagher, which was my first time there too. It was amazing and got some great feedback afterwards. May also saw the release of another talk on tutorialer.com about Windows Presentation Foundation with .NET, which also had a companion article on RoguePlanetoid.com. May saw the stunning northern lights appear in many places in the northern hemisphere, something I thought I'd have to travel many hundreds of kilometres to witness, to only need to step a few metres outside to see it in my hometown of Gateshead instead. May would see Microsoft Build 2024, as well as another .NET meetup about real-world cost management and .NET Interrupt. However, the main event in May was going to the podcast show to launch Clear and Tarn with our stand there. It was a fantastic experience to be there and test the business idea of helping people get started in podcasting or make podcasting easier. The month ended with an event for DevHub North about AWS SDK and malleable apps. June began with an episode covering the previous month's Microsoft Build 2024 on the RoguePlanetoid Podcast. June also saw a few events, including one on building a robot arm with .NET 8, Raspberry Pi, Blazor, and SignalR by Pete Gallagher, which was great to see after being part of his own event the previous month. There are many things I covered that month, including the WinUI community call, writing about .NET myths, and the first platform event organised by Paul Lancaster in Sunderland. The biggest event of the year for the northeast of England was TechNext, where I attended a few of the events, including the main stage hosted by Jamie Hardesty, which was about tech for purpose, and it was amazing to attend. And in between those events, I attended Startup Awards Northeast 2024, organised by Charlotte Windybank, to see the skill-ups, startups and scale-ups talk about their business ideas. June ended with another talk for tutorialer.com, this time on Windows App SDK with .NET, which was my first foray into writing a widget for Windows 11. Something I knew I wanted to look more into and make easier too, as it was a challenge to get everything to work. July began with an episode about the Northeast tech scene on the RoguePlanetoid Podcast, which was a great way of highlighting what is going on in the region. July also saw a few new or one-off events, including a Newcastle networking event by the FSB, 5G and Beyond, boosting Northeast business growth, which talked about the 5G immersive lab that was opening in Newcastle. July also saw another platform event in Newcastle from Paul Lancaster, but also saw my own talk about Clear and Torn. August started with the RoguePlanetoid podcast talking about presenting, including tips that have helped me over the years. It was also good to cover the first Windows Dev Chat from Microsoft. August also saw updates to my commences.toolkit and commences.toolkit.windows app SDK for .NET to add some more features, including the latter widget functionality to make implementing a widget much easier, which would set things up for the following month. September began with a Windows 11 widgets episode of the RoguePlanetoid podcast, along with an article on RoguePlanetoid.com, along with the biggest thing to have happened to me as a developer, which was being awarded Microsoft MVP for .NET and Windows development. It was an absolute honor to receive the award, which arrived just over a week later and has pride of place on my shelf. It is wonderful to be amongst other MVPs who I respect or have inspired me as a developer. September also was a chance to update my commences.assets package for SVG-based assets, including Fluid Emoji from Microsoft and other SVG images, along with adding ones for the filled and regular Fluid UI system icons from Microsoft. September also saw another WinUI community call and updates to Microsoft 365 Copilot, along with attending and presenting at Kudos.net meetup about Windows 11 widgets. September ended with going to the Tremula Festival in Brighton to learn about outdoor podcasting and CrimeCon London to again represent the Scottish Murders podcast. October's episode of the RoguePlanetoid podcast was about the Microsoft MVP award I'd received the previous month and my journey in getting there. It also saw more updates to my packages, along with a new commences.assets.display package for a 7-segment and 5x7 dot matrix display, which will be part of a new workshop for tutorialer.com to create a Windows widget to count down to an event. October also saw the very first event I've ever been part of organising, which was Podcast Paddock from Clear and Torn, with a presentation from myself about how we help new and existing podcasters, along with lightning talks. And it was a fantastic event and the first of many we hope to hold in the future, including one the following month. October ended with the Microsoft AI Tour in London, which I was unable to attend in person, but caught a few sessions, but will hopefully be able to go once again in the future, and another Windows Dev Chat from Microsoft. November started with an episode about ASP.NET Core on the RoguePlanetoid podcast. The month also saw the Northeast Expo, which is an event with many small and other businesses from the Northeast getting together, including exhibiting there too as Clear and Torn, to talk to people there about the services we offer to help new and existing podcasters. November ended with another Podcast Paddock event, with fireside chats with local podcast studios talking about the services they offer to new or existing podcasters. November also saw .NET Conf 2024, which saw the launch of .NET 9, which I would cover the following month. December began with the RoguePlanetoid podcast talking about .NET 9, which was launched at .NET Conf 2024 the previous month, along with organising my first ever tech event, which was built on what I learned from Podcast Paddock to do .NET Conf 2024 Newcastle upon Tyne, which was an official local event, which I had a talk from myself along with lightning talks from others, talking about aspects of .NET 9. It was amazing to be able to help celebrate .NET in the Northeast like this, and end the year with my own event. 2024 was even more event-packed than 2023. I remember thinking it would be good to at least match that year, but I not only surpassed it, but also held events I helped organise, such as Podcast Paddock and .NET Conf 2024 Newcastle upon Tyne. Although unfortunately, I did end 2024 by getting the flu, which, although I am better now, did take a while for my voice to recover, which is why this episode was delayed. 2025 looks like to be another great year, where I already have some events in the calendar I'm either speaking at or attending, including in ways I've not really done before. It will also be a chance to attend many of my regular events again, and hopefully get along to many new ones, like last year, and of course covering them with articles or posts. Even though the first month or so was not what I expected, I hope the rest of the year is much better. Finally, It would be great to see some of the projects I've been involved with that I've been working on, but couldn't say anything about during 2024, which I'll reveal now for the very first time. The first has been to be one of the technical reviewers of Minimal APIs in ASP.NET 9 by Nick Proud, which is now available, and can't wait to get my own copy. It will be the first book ever to have my name in it, and it is amazing to see all the work that goes into writing a book, and certainly understand it takes a lot of work and effort to do it. I'm pleased to have played my own small part in the process. The second was being invited by Uno Platform to try out Hot Design a few months before launch, and it was amazing and impressive. It was shown off during .NET Conf 2024, and I will be covering my experience of it in the near future. The last project I've been working on, I still can't go into much detail, but it was a brand new podcast I've been working on, which has involved a few people here in the northeast of England with a great concept that will hopefully help it stand out. It is fantastic to look back at 2024, especially as it is the year I became a Microsoft MVP, which I still am so proud of and honored to be. With everything that I did that year and was part of or attended, and look forward to an amazing 2025. I just want to thank again each and every one of you who take the time to listen to this podcast, which makes the time and effort that I put into each and every episode worthwhile, especially being patient with this episode being delayed, and wish that you all have an amazing 2025. Thanks for listening to the RoguePlanetoid Podcast, where each episode you'll find insights about Microsoft or related platforms and technology, along with so much more, wherever you listen to your podcasts, or at rogueplanetoid.com/podcasts. For the RoguePlanetoid Podcast, whether you are a beginner or an experienced professional or just interested in technology, keep current, keep coding. RoguePlanetoid Podcast is a production of Clarinton.